And guests. We'll start off with the prayer by Reverend Kenny.
Will all exchange members and honored guests please bow your heads for the opening prayer. Dear God, we come to you today in humble reverence and ask you to watch over the police officers and firefighters of the world. Please give them guidance in making important decisions that will have a lasting impact on the lives of our citizens and especially our children. God, we now ask you to bless all of them with the courage to go where others will not go, the strength to take our hand and lead, and to bless their dedication to keep our community safe. Dear Lord, please watch over the firefighters amid the smoke and flame. Let your strength aid them in their difficult tasks and sharpen their hearing and sight so that they may find those who await rescue. Lord, please protect the police officers. Keep them from harm in the performance of their duty, stopping crime, robbery, and violence. God, please watch over the police officers who work to keep our streets and homes safe, both day and night. Bless us all with your grace, but especially our brave men and women in the fire and police departments. Bless them with the wisdom to lead, their love to serve, and all the while uniting them with their families after their duty has ended. This we pray in God's name. Amen. Amen.
We'll have the pledge led by our past president, Dennis Schultz.
Please recite along with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, Bruce?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get on with the program. The chairman of the awards, Bruce Manor, would like to make the formal introduction beyond here.
Thank you all very much for being here today. The Exchange Club recognizes and gives accolades to many individuals every year. We've been doing this probably, we were just trying to figure out, I think, Atlee, it was probably 25 or plus years we've been doing this. From the young to the not so young, we've been doing this for their performances in school, their volunteer work, and job performance. All are highly coveted, recognitions of which we are proud to bestow upon our recipients. The Public Safety and Service Awards, which honors a police officer and a firefighter, is one of my favorites of all the awards that we give out. I can't think of any other job where the family wonders if their loved one will come home after work. And I don't mean stopping with their coworkers for a beer or a beverage or something before they go home. I mean, will they ever come home from work? And sadly to say, some don't. Excuse me. Speaking of families, I think they are the unsung heroes of the fire and the police departments. The many long hours and time spent away from their families can be a huge drain on a parent trying to manage a household, many times working themselves, raising a family, and providing support and understanding to their spouse. So this award we give is not only showing our appreciation to the individual, but also honoring the families that support that individual in their efforts to keep us all safe and out of harm's way. So congratulations to all the nominees and the recipients, and to the families that support them in their line of work. Thank you so much. Let me introduce now Atlee Price, who is our MC for the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce, very much. It's an honor to once again be the MC for this year's awards. Before I get started, though, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you a few people. The committee itself that met several times to go over the applications that were submitted to us, the nominees from both the police chief and the fire chief. We met on numerous occasions and actually labored over making those decisions until we came up with the final two recipients. Those committee members were, in addition to myself, Bruce, who just spoke, was the chairman of that committee, Jim Erickson, John Pease, Lyle Peters, and Mike Dempsey as well. We have some special guests here today that I'd also like to recognize. First of all, our two recipients, Mr. Craigbaum and Officer Radiger. If your family and friends that came with you, if you'd please, at your respective tables, please stand and be recognized by the crowd that are here today. We also are pleased to have seated at the back table as well. I see several past recipients, gentlemen and/or ladies, but I think all gentlemen today, if you would please stand if you are a past recipient of this award from the Exchange Club and you're joining us today, please. And with us also today, we have at least two representatives, I believe, from each the Police Merit Commission and the Fire Merit Commission. From the Police Merit Commission, we have Mr. John Plisky and Pastor Dennis Pickens. Gentlemen, would you please stand for us? And from the Fire Merit Commission, we have Keith Harris and Bob Pollock. Keith, Bob. Thank you. You know, I tell a story every once in a while about Tom Alavizos and I. We used to, before Tom became a judge, we would go into Lindo's occasionally. And if you've ever been into Lindo's, you know that that's a very popular place for police officers to usually stop and eat because they get a discount. Larry and the rest of the Figueres family see fit to honor those gentlemen that serve our fire and police departments with a discount if they eat their meal there. Well, one day we were there, and I tell this story, a lot of times I include John Plisky, but since he's here, I want to include him. The story goes essentially, we see Bob Sherritt, and I'll substitute perhaps Larry Litchford was with him. And they're sitting at the counter for quite some period of time where all the officers eat at, and Tom and I are seated at a table in the dining room watching them. And as we're sitting there, we see them get out a paper and a pencil, and they're doing some calculations. And the whole time they're figuring, and then they get a calculator and they're adding stuff up and keep looking at the menus and adding stuff up. And finally, we're done eating. We get up and we go to pay, and Stephanos is standing there. We give him our check and the money, and we walk over and we ask Stephanos, what's with it? Why haven't the Sherritt and Litchford, why haven't they ordered yet? So, well, they're trying to figure out which is the better deal, the senior citizen discount or the police officer discount. But truly, it is our honor to give this award to each of these fine gentlemen today. Today, more so than in the past, and as Bruce indicated, we've done this now for well over a quarter of a century. But with each passing year, police officers and firemen are placed with unyielding burdens that they have to carry. Firemen, from the perspective of whenever that alarm comes out, you can count on the fact that they're going to be responding, whether it's 95 degrees in the middle of a thunderstorm in the middle of the summer, they're going to respond to that fire, or if it's 20 below zero and a howling blizzard, they're going to show up and connect the hoses up and do their best to put the fire out and save property and human life if necessary, at the risk of their own life, welfare, and safety. Police officers today are called upon all the way from the minor traffic stop that can go awry, to investigating complicated cases using all types of electronics and computer equipment today that were never even thought of 10 or 15 years ago. They have to put the case together after being second-guessed by Lord only knows how many other people who like to armchair quarterback their job. Then they have to convince a prosecutor and a judge that they have enough probable cause to file the case, and then 12 people later on that the person was in fact guilty of the crime that they charged them with. Each of these individuals have our heartfelt thanks every day for what they go about doing. So in order to properly introduce each of the two recipients today, I would like, if we could, I would call upon our mayor, Mr. Ron Meir, who is somewhat of a sportsman. He's still 1-0 at bat, I think, for those of you who understand what that means. Mayor, if you'd please come up and give a few remarks about what your thoughts and feelings are on this occasion as well.
Thank you, Atlee. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a great honor to be here to honor Police Officer Radiger and Firefighter Craig Baum. Let's start out. I'm going to let the chiefs talk about their achievements and their accomplishments and things. Just a couple little short, funny stories that I may have to share with you about each of the individual recipients today. I got a lot more stories, actually, because I've known Steve a lot longer, and there's probably a lot of them that we wouldn't have time to share here today, stories I've been told even. But I'll start out with Officer Radiger. Got to talk to him and get a little more acquainted with him when we brought on Apollo, his partner, to the Michigan City Police Department, and was just so proud to see how the community rallied around him, and he was just a true representative of our community. We were really proud, and like I say, I'll let the chiefs elaborate on their achievements. But a couple weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go to the Broncos-Colts game, and we're walking down the street probably an hour before the game, and my wife, she says to me, she goes, "Hey, there's a Michigan City police officer over there." And I said, "Really?" So I'm looking for a car and a uniform and everything. I'm like, "Oh boy, I got a situation." And so anyway, it was Officer Radiger and his wife, and I understand that she's a gigantic Colts fan, really just went to the Texas game even recently. So anyway, we go over and had a conversation. He was trying to trade tickets with me. I think my tickets were a little better than his. But so we had a nice conversation, and ended up being a great evening for all of us. But I was tempted to, just email the chief and say, "Hey, I ran into one of your officers down here." And my wife pokes me. She says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I was just going to say I ran into an officer down here." She says, "You don't know whether he took a sick day or he's on a personal day or anything." She says, "You're liable to get him in trouble, and he'll never like you again." So I left that alone. So Firefighter Craig Baum, I've gotten to know a lot more so over the last couple of years, but being involved in city government for many years, like I say, I've been exposed to a lot of things that he's been involved in. And the one thing that I can say is that just about every time that he's at an event or something, he's giving, he's helping out. He's always involved in a charitable event, working with the burn camp, working with people with disabilities. Just, he has a very big heart. I know he's a big guy and he's going to have a big heart, but I mean it goes beyond that. And he is just a very generous, a great human being. And I guess my story with him is that I've been fishing with Mr. Craig Baum on a couple of occasions, and we did very well. I mean, we caught a lot of fish. It was a great time. And it's real important that if you go fishing with Mr. Craig Baum, that you take a lot of pictures, because you may not remember the experience until the next day, and some of those folks are going to know what I'm talking about. But with that, I would bring Mr. Price back up. I know that we'll bring our chiefs up, and they'll talk about the great achievements. Congratulations to both of these gentlemen.
Our process this year, we had a total of 4 individuals that were submitted to us by the police department. The 3 individuals that, in addition to Officer Radiger, were Officers Dion Campbell, Tim Hazel, and Tom Button. I don't think I see any of them here today, but we wanted to acknowledge them certainly for being very worthy individuals in name and consideration for this award as well. At this point, in order to introduce Officer Radiger, I can think of no one more fitting than Chief Swistek, someone who started as a patrolman that I remember as a patrolman, and working his way up through the ranks, exposed himself to a lot of the same conditions and extraordinary achievements that Officer Radiger is now starting down the path of his career as well. So Officer Swistek, or Chief Swistek, if you would please introduce to us our recipient. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Atlee. On behalf of the men and women of the Michigan City Police Department, we sincerely appreciate this opportunity to come before you today and the continued support of the Exchange Club of not only the law enforcement in your community, but the firefighters here in Michigan City. Today, as we stand here honoring both Officer Greg Radiger and Firefighter Steve Craigbaum, I'd like to kind of give you some insight into Officer Greg Radiger. Officer Radiger was hired on December 10th of 2007. Since then, he has received the Life-Saving Award for his efforts this past July 12th on the rescue of Nathan Waisner here at Mount Baldy. He has 3 letters of commendation and 8 separate letters of appreciation that are in his personnel file. Currently, he is assigned as one of our K-9 handlers on our afternoon shift, and he does an outstanding job each and every day. And I can tell you one thing about Greg that I've seen since his date of hire is he always comes to work with a positive attitude. There isn't a day that I can't walk the halls of the Michigan City Police Department and see a pep in his step, and he's always cheering us all up. Even I, as chief, I have a bad day from time to time, and when I run into Greg, Greg always finds a way to brighten our day, not only for myself, but the other members of the department. This morning, as I sat at my desk and I thought about the words I wanted to say as we congratulate Greg today, I think back of about 2 weeks ago, when I called Greg, and my wife and I personally met him out at Walmart because he was working at the time. And I had gotten a call from Bruce, and Bruce acknowledged that Officer Radiger was going to be our Officer of the Year recipient. So I told my wife that I wanted to personally tell Greg, and that I asked that he meet with me at Walmart. So Greg pulls in the Walmart parking lot, has no idea why I'm asking for him to meet me at Walmart, maybe to carry my groceries to the car. So Greg pulls up, my wife and I go up to him, and we shook his hand, we congratulated him, and I could see it was a very proud moment for him. And for somebody that's closing in on 6 years of service here at the Michigan City Police Department, Greg often tells me that someday he is going to be our police chief. And as I look back over these 6 years, I believe that in this young man. He has the spirit, he has the outgoing personality that's needed, and he is a very talented and dedicated profession to law enforcement. Greg, when I went through your personnel file this morning, I'm going to take you back to February 21st of 2008, and you may or may not remember this. But with our young recruits, we put them through a lot of extensive training in their first year. For a man who only had a little over 2 months on the job, we asked all our new recruits at that time to type out your definition, what does it take to be a good police officer? When I went through Greg's personnel file, I found this actual memo, and this is in Greg's own actual words, and I think it's very fitting for today, and it only proves that we've selected the right person for today's honor. What does it take to be a good police officer? In my opinion, to be a good police officer, you need to have certain characteristics. Of those traits, one of the most important is honesty. If you're not an honest person, you cannot be trusted. Not only trusted to watch over the community and general public, but trusted to have the lives of your other officers in your hands. Along with being an honest person, you also need to be brave and able to step up and make quick action decisions. Your fellow officers need to know that you will be able to have their back in responding to a fight and make the right decision, which ultimately might save their life in the end. Another important quality is having a heart. In our line of work, we see some of the worst situations or scenarios possible. There are times that someone just needs an ear to talk to, or just to see that there is someone that cares about them out there. If people see that it can sometimes make situations that much better. Being a police officer is not an easy job, but it takes certain people to do it. It's just a shame that after people get on the force, they sometimes forget what they were taught and they forget their bearing. One bad person and one bad decision can give us all a bad name. And this is the best part. The very last line that Greg put on this was that people should think of others before they think of themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, the man that we're honoring today from our police department is one of our best, one of the most dedicated, comes from a good family. Both of his parents, Jerry and Kay, are here with us today. I can tell you that they raised him well. I look forward to great things from him in his future. And at this time, I'd like to call forward Sergeant Matthew Barr, who wrote the letter of nomination nominating Officer Radiger. Greg, congratulations.
Congratulations, gentlemen. I will go ahead and read this letter. I said, "To whom it may concern, I'd like to nominate Officer Greg Radiger for Officer of the Year. There are numerous reasons why he's more than deserving of this award, and I would like to touch on a few. First, Officer Radiger played a huge integral part in the miracle at Mount Baldy. He was one of the first responders to arrive on scene and one of the last to leave. He worked nonstop in the heat, never losing hope. He was not just a bystander hoping for the best, he was in the hole digging. He literally put his sweat and tears into saving that boy's life. He started digging with his bare hands prior to tools arriving at the scene and continued to dig when shovels and other tools arrived. Some gave up hope, while others doubted that it was possible for anyone to even be in a hole that deep. As minutes turned to hours, others had doubt and lost hope. Radiger never lost sight. He worked to the point of exhaustion, both physically and mentally. Approximately 4 hours later, Radiger and the other first responders pulled a lifeless boy out of the sand. Greg was devastated. He invested so much and never lost faith that they would save that boy. When Greg left the scene, he was under the impression that the boy had passed. He was so emotionally invested, just the thought of the boy dying had wrecked him. It was evident Greg was overwhelmed and he was sent home. Only a great officer, or a great person in general, would donate so much of themselves into a complete stranger. While Greg and numerous others were recognized for their efforts in Mount Baldy, I feel it's important to point out that very few that were recognized worked as hard as Greg did out there, or did as much as he did. In my opinions, it was the action of Greg and a select few others that saved that boy. Mount Baldy is but a small piece of the puzzle when it comes to the benefits Greg brings to the city of Michigan City. I met Greg briefly prior to him being hired onto our department. He spoke to me of how much he wanted to be a police officer and how it was his goal to become one. He had to overcome numerous obstacles in his life to reach that goal, including a near-death experience that left him without much of his lungs. I'm not sure that experience even slowed him down. He is not and never has been one of those guys doing the job for a paycheck. He legitimately strives to make a difference. Greg comes to work every day with the intention of making the city better for the residents. Because his hard work does not go unnoticed, Greg was able to join the Narcotics Task Force early in his career, and more recently he achieved one of his goals from the day he was hired to be a canine handler. Greg tested with numerous other applicants for that job, but his dedication, drive, and work ethic made him the obvious choice. In the short time this year that Greg has had his canine, he has already taken several guns off of the street and successfully tracked multiple felons. He has already utilized his dog to assist other agencies and has successfully locate firearms for them. In addition to using Apollo to make our streets safer, Greg frequently participates and hosts canine demonstrations for the general public, disabled, children, and whoever else he feels the demonstrations will benefit. He does these demonstrations in his off time and is a great liaison between the police department and the public. For 6 weeks, Greg volunteered to do these demonstrations for the mentally handicapped adults at Shearing Meadows, which, as we all know, is a fantastic program. He has taken Apollo to the schools to do demonstrations for the children as well. Having a child's first experience with law enforcement be positive is key to their feelings towards law enforcement in the future. Too often the public only sees the negative side of police work, whether it be receiving a ticket or getting arrested. It's nice to have an officer out there combating the often negative perception of law enforcement. Along the same lines of being a positive role model for our community's youth, Greg also assists with the Explorer program and allows the kids to ride along with them and experience law enforcement from a different point of view. One of the things I frequently notice about Greg is his willingness to go above and beyond what most others are willing to do. As easy as it would be to take an initial report and call it a day, Greg doesn't do that. I've seen numerous reports and situations involving Officer Radiger this year where he not only does his role as a patrolman, but often begins the work often left to the Detective Bureau. One such incident that I recall from this year involved some dangerous subjects shooting at people. Officer Radiger located the suspect vehicle, obtained the suspect's information, and even went as far as to attempt to obtain a search warrant to get the suspect's guns off the streets. This is not the behavior of your typical patrolman. Just by being inquisitive and going the extra mile, Officer Radiger was able to help solve some of LaPorte County cold case burglaries while at a seemingly common and definitely unrelated call he was dispatched to. These actions make him an asset to the Detective Bureau without ever stepping foot in our office. Greg uses his knowledge from being a narcotics officer to assist with the current narcotics unit with information gathered from working the streets. He provides current information on gang members, drug dealers, and dangerous subjects so that the task force can do their job that much better. Again, without stepping foot into the task force office, he improves their ability to do their jobs. Greg is also an FTO, a field training officer, and has assisted with training multiple officers this year. He does his best to instill his work ethic on the new officers of the department. A good FTO like Greg, who teaches new officers the right way to do things, will have a positive effect on the department for years to come. Anytime, day or night, Greg is willing to bring out his dog when Apollo could be an asset. If a dog isn't needed, Greg volunteers himself. He participates in every warrant sweep and is the first to step up, regardless of how dangerous a situation may be. It would be easy to go on and on about all the positive traits Greg brings to the police department, but I feel the bottom line is that in addition to saving lives and catching felons, Greg's simply a great example for other officers in the public. He is what others should strive to be like.
My turn? Who's on first? That's right. Okay, you want to make the award now, okay? You like to come up, please? Thank you. On behalf of the Michigan City Exchange Club, I'd like to present you with this award for 2013. I'll get it right, Chad. And hope to see you in Mark's place someday.
Thank you, sir.
Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, everybody. It's an absolute honor to be up here. Before I talk, there's just one thing I'd personally like to do. I'd just like to have a quick moment of silence. As we all know, our Sergeant Yagelski, his wife, lost her battle with cancer last week. And I just asked if we could have a quick moment of silence and ask God to bless him and his family with comfort right now in the passing of his wife. Thank you. I also like to start off, Apollo wanted to come today, however, he had a very busy morning. I say sorry he couldn't be here today. He had to wake up, play fetch, eat breakfast, go back down and sleep before work today, so Apollo wasn't able to make it today, but he did say when you guys have your annual canine demo, he will be here and he'll put on a good show for you guys. So that was from Apollo. Also, just a quick introduction. I'm Officer Greg Radiger. I've been in the police department approximately 6 years. You regularly see me around the community, not only doing my police work, but also involved in whatever it may be. Wearing an Easter Bunny suit, doing a canine demonstration, getting tasered for the fun of it. I'm kind of a jack of all trades around here. As Chief Swistek noted, I kind of have a motto I like to live by. A police officer also needs to have a heart. Being a police officer isn't just stopping cars and making arrests, but it's also making people feel comfortable with you. I like to treat everyone that I come across with on the street the way I'd like my loved ones to be treated if they came across a police officer, and so far I feel I've been able to accomplish that in my life. It's with great humble and honor I stand here today and accept the Police Officer of the Year award for 2013. I do have to be honest, when Chief Swistek called me a couple weeks ago, I just stopped a car, I wrote a warning ticket, had a smile, thank you, a handshake, and I walked away. And about 30 seconds later, my phone rang, and I saw it was Chief Swistek. I was like, he's been gone all week at the Chiefs Association. So I have not played any practical jokes this week, I have not yelled at anybody, I have not bagged up any of Apollo's droppings and put them in a fellow officer's squad car. I've done nothing this week. I was like, boy, what did I do? And he said, can you please meet me at Walmart? So my heart was throbbing. I was thinking, oh boy, I really don't know what I did this time. I was not expecting for him to tell me that I was nominated, or that I received the award for Officer of the Year. There's outstanding officers that were also nominated, Officer Campbell, Officer Hazel, and Officer Button, who are very close friends of mine, who I respect very much, and are all outstanding officers, especially Officer Button, because he's as big of a Cubs fan as I, and when the Cubs stink every year, we can kind of console each other and move on with life and say next year. So it is a very honor to be named, especially with the fine officers that were nominated with me. 2013 was kind of a challenging year for me as a police officer, both mentally and physically. I've been sent to a lot of different calls. There's been shootings, there's been suicides, sexual assaults. It's been a rough year. I've taken a lot home with me. Probably the worst with me was July 12th with Mount Baldy. I remember the day like it was yesterday. Myself and Officer Teska were driving on Franklin Street. I was a training Officer Teska at the time. We heard Unit 22 was dispatched to Mount Baldy, references a 6-year-old child that was partially buried in the sand. I said, boy, we should probably go help him out with that one. That seems like a tough call. We began flying lights and sirens. We passed Officer Hood on the way there. And as we were pulling in the parking lot, dispatch came out with another information, and they said the boy is now completely engulfed in the sand. They cannot see him. They're trying to dig him out. Myself and Officer Teska immediately pulled up to the steepest part of Mount Baldy. We weren't sure where to go. We said, let's climb. Now, I was at the height of my summer workout, running several miles a day, lifting weights every day. I thought climbing Mount Baldy was going to be a cakewalk. I was wrong, okay? There's a big difference between working out in shorts and a t-shirt and running shoes and climbing Mount Baldy in a bulletproof vest, a duty belt, and boots. I was physically and mentally exhausted when I got to the top. I was crawling on my hands and knees because I couldn't stand up because I was so out of breath and so exhausted. Approximately 50 yards in front of us, we saw a family crying and pleading for help. We immediately got to them. I was able to climb to my feet and run to them. The first thing I did was start digging. As I was digging, I realized I've asked no questions yet. As I was digging, we continued to ask questions. We asked them what was going on, and they were pleading and begging for our help. As we continued to dig, myself and Officer Teska were able to put important information out over the radio for important supplies and manpower to get there to help us out. As we continued to dig with our hands, additional manpower arrived on scene, additional personnel arrived on scene, and by the grace of God, eventually shovels arrived on scene. I was still digging. I had not quit yet at this point in time. At one point in time, Chief Richardson and Chief Swistek advised me that I needed to get out of the hole and I needed to take a break before I passed out. Chief Swistek advised I needed to take off my uniform top, my bulletproof vest, and my duty belt, and Chief Richardson provided me with a bottle of water. Well, I did what they said. I took the uniform part off. I did chug the bottle of water, but I skipped the break. I jumped back in, and I started digging again. I was not going to quit. I was there first. I heard the cries. I saw the pleas of the parents begging for help. I couldn't give up on them. We had to keep going. We all know that God blessed us with a great turnout that day. Young Nathan was alive. He has a second chance at life and is able to move on happily, injury-free, and his parents are able to go on every day knowing that their young child's alive and they can watch their child grow up happily and healthy. This event personally took me back to 2006 when I was injured and I was ill in the United States Navy. I remember the day that I was laying in a hospital bed and doctors came and they started talking to me. They said, Greg, due to your sustained permanent and lung injury, you're going to be medically retired from the Navy. They said, your Navy career is now over. That was a tough one to take in. So we sat and started talking personally with the doctors, and they said, well, what do you think you're going to do when you go home? I said, well, I'm going to be a police officer again. I'm going to continue my career. They were very, very kind and said, Greg, your body will never take the effects of a police officer again. You can't do it. It's never going to happen. We don't know if you're going to need a walker for the rest of your life. You might need a cane. You might need oxygen. We don't know how your body's going to recover. I said, okay, thank you. I'm going to be a police officer again. When they left the room, I looked at Mom. I said, Mom, can you do me a favor? I need Dad's shoes. Please put them on my feet and tie them for me because I was unable to do so. Dad, thank you again for your shoes. I put on Dad's shoes. I grabbed my walker with my fancy tennis balls on the front of it, and I began walking up and down the hallway in the hospital. I said, I'm going to be healthy again. I'm going to get strong again, and I'm going to go home. Luckily enough, I was sent home. And over the course of the next several months, I worked every day. When it was too hot to go outside, I'd go walk around Walmart and buy ridiculous $5 movies to go home and watch because I was too exhausted from my walk around Walmart. Approximately a month and a half before I turned 21, I called a friend of mine and I said, Chris, I need you, he's a personal trainer, I said, I need you to get me in the best physical shape possible. I'm turning my application in for the police department. I need to be in the best physical fitness shape as possible. He said, okay. So 6 days a week, I started working out with Chris at the Northwest Athletic Club. There were days I was in tears. I'd be begging Chris to take the weights or help me get the bar off my chest. He said, no, my job's to get you healthy. Your job's to get that weight off your chest. Now lift, and your break can be going to the next machine to work out. You're getting in best shape. I don't care if you like it or not. Needless to say, I get the bar off my chest, and I go crying to the next one until Chris had me in best shape. The day I turned 21, I turned my application into the police department, and just a few weeks later, I had the department physical fitness test, which I passed with flying colors. You can ask my parents how nervous I was that morning. I didn't know if I was able to do it. And again, God blessed me with another chance in life to continue my dream to be a police officer. Every day I go to work, I think of what the doctors and hospital staff did for me while I was in the Navy. I was clinging for my life with all that I had. It was prayer and my parents next to me. I promised God and I promised myself that I'd never forget the mentality that they bestowed upon me in the hospital. That was not on my watch. They told my parents that, not on our watch. We will not let you lose your son, Greg. And the doctors did that for me. God gave me a second chance at life by blessing me with the doctors that he blessed me with. I'm beyond proud to be an officer of the Michigan City Police Department. I was walking down the hallway the other day and I saw the Officer of the Year plaque hanging on the wall. I saw the names of the officers that are up there, most of which are very close friends of mine, who I have a huge amount of respect for and who I seek help from on a daily basis. I'm proud to have my name up there with them. I'm proud to stand in this podium knowing that I got to join that select group of officers. Most importantly, though, I'd like to thank the big guy above. I'd like to thank God. God's blessed me with so much in my life. God blessed me with a second chance at life. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for God. I thank my wife, Nicole. She puts up with my crazy antics, my pranks, my long hours away from home, not seeing me for days. But no matter what, she's in my corner cheering for me, understanding that it's just part of the job. It's what I chose to do. It's what I love to do. I also thank my parents, Mom and Dad. You guys are my best friends. You've always been there for me. If it wasn't for Mom, I'd still be in 5th grade trying to pass my math class. A lot of hours went to math homework, and I still don't get math. You can ask Officer Rodriguez. I can still add whole numbers and get decimals after it. He helps me out with that also. I work for a great police department. I have outstanding coworkers. We do a great job protecting the streets of Michigan City. I'm proud to be part of this team. I was proud to be part of the team that worked on Mount Baldy that day. We united as one. We came together, and there's a life saved because of everyone's hard work out there. I'm humbled and honored to receive this award today. Thanks to each and every one of you. Fireman Craybaum, congratulations on your award also this year. Thank each and every one of you, and God bless.
You know what? I said, wait, I know that. Stop.
One of Greg's other attributes that a lot of people may not know about is that he and Nicole are outstanding trivia players, and we've had the honor of him playing on our team a few times. It's a remarkable ability to recall very minute information. But one of the things that always happens at some of these trivia events, and it happened as recently as last week at a social gathering that Greg was at, is we would get a lot of people challenge whether or not he should even be playing on the team. And I'm reminded just as recently as this past Saturday, when a woman seated at our table looked across and asked him, are you a junior or senior in New Prairie High School? For the next portion of our award ceremony, first of all, we would like to pay some special attention also to the person who was nominated in addition to Firefighter Craig Baum, that being Firefighter Mark Baker, as well, that was considered by our committee for this award. Now, to make a description and introduce to you this year's recipient, I would call upon the Fire Chief for the City of Michigan City, Chief Ron Martin, please.
First of all, I'd like to say good afternoon. One of the first things I want to do is offer my congratulations to the Officer Radiker and the Radiker family. I'm a very religious person, and when you said what was the most important, I absolutely agree with you. We as first responders can do nothing without God. And I think through him, he lives through you. Congratulations. And on the second note, a much lighter note, if you have pictures of a mayor down there, I need a raise. So if you share me some of the pictures, I'd be happy to take them. Moving on, the firefighter that has received the award, Steve Craigbaum. One of the things that I would say about firefighter Craigbaum is that he would celebrate his 25th year on November the 16th. Firefighter Craigbaum is actually getting ready to move into a different phase of his life because he's getting ready to retire. One of the things as fire chief on the Michigan City Fire Department I always admire about a firefighter such as firefighter Steve Craigbaum is that it's very underestimated and very untold of what it takes to be a good firefighter. In my 26 years on the department, when we're called to a scene, I don't have people running me over to get to the scene. In all my times I can recall, the only people that ran me to get to the scene are my fellow firefighters. That takes heart, it takes dedication, and that takes the person that's going to be the recipient of this award. One of the things that I would ask the firefighter Craigbaum to do before he leaves is, his nickname for years has been Quake. Yep. And I, on my own assumptions, I would assume that it's because of his size and his gigantic heart that he can move people. So that would be, if I'm wrong, please correct me someday before you leave. Steve has been one of those guys, and just to recall the story, we had a fire last year on Buffalo Street, and his crews were working hard on this structure, and there was something going on in the front of the structure. Well, his crews in the upstairs were breaking out windows, and while they were breaking out windows, Steve went to the bottom to do something that was a problem at the bottom of the structure. And I can remember his battalion chief, Chief Fuller, and the other officers yelling at him, "Steve, get out of there. You need to get out of there." And I can remember sitting back and recalling that, you know, it's that heart and it's that dedication that makes a good fireman. You know, they were correct. You have to be safe. We all have to come back to our families, but all the training and all the academy work that we have will not bless that firefighter with that heart. And that's one of the things that when Steve retires next in January, he will take with him. And one of the things that I have always pushed and tried to inspire in our retirees is bring back that passion, bring back that heart, bring back that tradition back to the fire department. Because this city, Michigan City, will be better for it. One of the other things I'm going to share about Steve, my dad was the prior fire chief here. And Steve was stationed out before we got the new stations at the North Side Station, our Station 5. He was out there with a firefighter named Gene Krause. I guarantee you, Gene have been very proud of you, Steve. I guarantee you. So, I wish you well in retirement. I hope to join you there someday. Not soon, but someday. I say congratulations to you, and I say please accept my invitation to always come back, to always bring back your heart and your soul back to the young firefighters on the Michigan City Fire Department. please accept that invitation. At this time, I will turn over the podium to his battalion chief, Chief Howard Fuller, who wrote the recommendation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank the Exchange Club and the DAV for sponsoring this event. A past winter of 2009, it was quite an honor back then, and it's still an honor today. So once again, thank you very much. We couldn't do this, be firemen or policemen or anything without the support of from our mayor, from our city council, from our both chiefs, fire chief and police chief. Without them, we can't do our job. They're out there getting our finances for us. They are getting us top-of-the-line equipment, try to keep us safe, try to help us do our jobs the best, so they deserve some recognition here for that. I'm going to read you this letter of nomination that I made for Steve. He's got 25 years of service. He's never been late in his entire career, which is, his attendance record is outstanding. He's probably got less than 5 sick days in his entire career, up until this year, so. So this went to Chief Rose. I said, I am nominating firefighter Stephen Craigbaum for Firefighter of the Year 2013. Throughout his career, firefighter Craigbaum has not only been a leader in the community, he has been a leader at the Northside stations that he has worked at his entire career. For a number of years, he has organized not only the MCFD, but the Michigan City Charter Boats Association with the handicap boat ride. I don't know if anybody's ever helped with that. I have as much as I possibly can, but what it does is we get people from, Steve has gotten people from all over LaPorte County and the region that otherwise would never be on a boat in their entire life. He organizes through the Charter Boat Association and the firefighters and the Port Authority to get these individuals a chance to get on a boat, have a picnic, do something they would probably never ever have the chance to do, and that is quite an opportunity for these people, and you would not believe the smile on their faces when they get off that boat. So I also believe the recipients of this ride were pulled from the folks at the Swanson Center of Michigan City, who's also been kind enough to help Steve throughout this, and through Michiana Resources of Michigan City. They have given Steve a pool of names for years, and I don't know how the final names have been pulled, but these people are really, really happy to be part of this process. And if anybody ever wants to help next year, I'm sure Steve's always looking for help. So even though he'll be retired next year, I'm sure he'll be tugging at our shirt tails to come down there and help him, which we always do, and that's not a problem. In addition, Steve and Chief Westfall coordinated a similar ride for the children of the Bird Camp based in Indianapolis this summer. And once again, the results for that were outstanding. These folks have never been to Michigan City before. And there was quite a few other events besides the boat ride, but we're talking about Steve today, and I can remember him and Chief Westfall really going out on a limb and working extra hard every day to try to get this stuff done, and it came off wonderfully. And the faces on these kids, once again, were just unbelievably happy. Never been on a boat, never seen Lake Michigan, and I believe more than one of them said they're coming back next summer. So it was quite an opportunity for these people, and hopefully they can come back and bring their friends and continue to find summers in Michigan City. That was an absolute hit for the recipients. This is Steve's last year working as a Michigan City firefighter. He is retiring in 2014 after a wonderful career with this. He is somebody that I can count on every day to show up at work and give 110% effort, not only at the station, but at emergency scenes. There's some intangible things that we can't really grade up in our evaluation process. That, for instance, like if we go in and there's a furnace problem, Steve is he works on the side for HVAC companies, and he provides support to not only myself, but the other officers that work with them. That, you know, we don't know everything about the furnaces and the air conditioning and the ventilation things, so Steve goes in there and he helps these individuals not only diagnose their problem, but, you know, who to contact, and what the problem is, and how to get things done and get things working. That's on the residential side. On the commercial and industrial side, you know, we got to get air moving through these big buildings. Sometimes we don't have the equipment on our trucks that can do it, so we have to use the heating and air conditioning and the ventilation systems within the structure to move air throughout without contaminating the entire building. So that's when we call on Steve to come in and help us and see how we can zone out certain rooms and try to compartmentalize so we don't get smoke throughout the structure. And he's been an awfully big help to me throughout not only being a battalion chief, but as a captain. We've had quite a few incidents where I've just pulled him off to the side and say, what do we need to do? And he helps out immeasurably. Like I said, he is very knowledgeable in the HVAC systems, watercraft, and most mechanical systems that we deal with on a daily basis. I already told you about his attendance record. It is outstanding. I believe this award would be a great honor for him and his family, and would be a lasting mark of leadership for all the young firefighters that are working their way through the department. You know, it's not just so much to show up every day, you know, put your time in and go home. You got to do extra stuff. You got to get out there in the community. You got to help. And that's a big reason why Steve has made it throughout his career, and he's so special amongst not only the firemen, but I believe everybody in this room pretty much knows who Steve is. And the mayor said, you know, he couldn't have said it any better. He's just an outstanding person with a big, giant, warm heart. And I'm glad to have him, and we're going to be sorry to see him go. So that's all I have today. And congratulations, Steve and Officer Radinger. Well deserved, and thank you very much.
Congratulations, Steve. Thank you. Again, on behalf of the Michigan City Exchange Club, I'd like to present you with this award for 2013. I'll get it right yet. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Big smile. Oh, you can do better than that. That's good.
Well, congratulations, Greg, and the rest of the family. This has been a great, great honor to me, although when I found out about this, I was in North Dakota. And I got to tell you, I was a little miffed. My chief called me, Howard Fuller, and said, I've got good news and bad news. And he says, the good news is you won Firefighter of the Year. The bad news is you'll be with all of your friends from the Exchange Club, and you got to behave because you're going to be in full uniform. I probably could say I know about 90% of you Exchange Club guys, and thank you very, very much for this award.
You don't have to behave either.
Good. Did you hear that, Chief? And I got to thank the mayor, because when he first came here and he was going to introduce me, he says he really didn't have anything good to say. So thanks for cleaning that up. So, unlike Greg doing a lot of things on the job, I did most of my credit goes off the job, it seems like, with the handicap boat ride. And please, please, please believe me that you guys, I'm sure at least half of you guys from the Exchange Club has been down there for that, if not 3/4 of you. Like, for instance, Joe, Joe Corr's got to be a 15-year perfect attender for that. He's helped me every year for 15 years. So it's not just me, it's the whole community, from the Coast Guard to the EMS to the police department. Timmy Richardson showed up this year with a great crew and helped out tremendously. And every year we get more and more and more helpers. The Shrine came this year, the Masons came this year, and every year it's gone up and up and up. I started 15 years ago with 60 people, and now we're right at 500. And awful. Yeah, that's the big part. So it's easy for me except for getting all the votes. So after this year we needed 74 votes, and that's what we rounded up. And the same goes true with the burn camp, although Daryl kind of threw me for a loop, Chief Westfall, when he called me and said, can we do something with boat rides for the burn camp? And it was in the middle of the week, like at 2 o'clock on the afternoon on a Tuesday. And I'm thinking, I didn't know, I knew the burn camp for years, and we've helped out for years with the burn camp, but I really didn't have a clue. I said, well, geez, I'm thinking, how many burn kids can there be in the state of Indiana? Because it was a Hoosier burn camp. So I'm thinking, my son has a boat, and all my buddies have a boat right there. I said, I'll just round up 3, 4, 5 boats, and we'll be good to go. So about 2 days before it was supposed to take off, Daryl calls me, and he says, Chief Westfall, and he says, you need to look at this list. I said, no, I don't need the list. We'll just throw the kids on the boat and take off and keep them out there for an hour or so, run them to Baldy and run them to New Buffalo or something, and they'll have a good time. And we'll give them a picnic when they get back in. And he goes, all right. A couple of days later, he goes, you really need to look at this list. I said, all right, bring me the list. And I was at the station, and he brought me the list, and the list that I thought was going to be 25 or 30 people was 147. Needless to say, after I got up and realized that I had to get 30 more boats than what I had, so and do this on a Tuesday at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But it came out perfectly. We got all the boats, and the kids just had a great time. Chief Martin has videos of the thing that he's got posted somewhere. You can even look at it, and of some of the burn kids that were in wheelchairs that just were absolutely devastated by the trip. And I think it came out really, the hardest part was loading at the docks because the water level is so low. But we had a good crew of firemen, and I think the policemen were down there too, helping that, once again, load. That's one of the big things. So once again, I'm very honored with this. I don't think I deserve it. It should have went to a younger guy like Greg, and especially the old Baldy guys. So, but since I'm leaving, they thought they'd throw me something for it when I was done. With all that being said, Howard, when he nominated me, I couldn't figure out what was Howard up to, and then I realized that the people that nominate the person get a free luncheon, so that explained a lot of things. So, and I do have a little something for Howard. Would you like to step up here, Chief Fuller? Well, this is a little something I've been trying to not get rid of, but this little something I was looking for a home for. It was done professionally by a group out of South Bend a few years back of the handicap boat ride. And it's a little saying on here. It says, some people only worry about getting the best life has to give. But a few people, special people like you, think it's more important to give the best of your life. And some people wait around hoping good things will happen and come to them. But you're working hard to make good things happen for others. There's a name for people like you, a hero. And that's Howard and the rest of the crew that help with this ride every year. They come down, and all the engine companies, Chief Martin lets come down every year and help with this boat ride. But I gave this to Howard because it's a very nice picture of how, well, it's not a real nice picture of Howard. It's actually a picture of the back of Howard's head through a dip net. So. Thank you very much.
Congratulations again, Steve, and to everyone who has attended, we thank you for your attendance. We thank especially the families of the nominees and recipients this year for your commitment. We wish continued good fortune to all of our nominees and all firemen, all firefighters, and all police officers. We wish you perpetual safety and Godspeed. Thank you for coming.